Rev up your engines!
Something you might not have thought of. You're thinking of buying a Tesla. Where do you find out the cost of insuring these cars? Yeah, it's bad enough that they cost so much money and they take so long to recharge. But where do you see what the insurance premiums are? Take a Model S. It can easily be over $4,100 a year insurance. You own that thing for 10 years. There's another 41 grand you peed out the toilet for insurance for the thing. Realize the insurance companies wanted the car stolen. They got to pay for it, and it costs a lot of money. Number two, they get in a wreck, they have to pay for repairs. The repairs take so long and cost so much, if they got to rent a car for you, they might have to rent a car for you for 2 or 3 months or more. So you're going to pay more of your premiums. You think it's bad enough that things cost so much? Hey, over $4 grand a year in car insurance? Insurance is based on what it costs to fix them, what it costs to replace them. And I'm sure with some of them starting on fire, any electric car, that's going to raise the rates. Rarely does a regular car start on fire, right? Well, the electric cars have a lot more problems. Look at the GM. They're bolts, those piles of junk. I'm sure the premiums on those will go sky high if you want fire insurance for them. And a lot of people don't think about this cost, but that is a giant cost for these things. This is magic. Oh, here's how it goes. It's cheaper. No, it isn't. You add all these costs together, they're extravagantly expensive cars to buy and drive around in. And on a negative side, if you don't listen to old Scotty and you buy one and then you're not happy, they have insanely low resale value. I had a neighbor in Houston bought a Tesla Model X. Originally it was 120-something grand. He paid 45 for it and it only had 15,000 miles on it. They have no resale value. So if you decide, oh, I didn't like it, you'll be screwed to the wall on the money you'll lose selling the stupid thing. Realize that just electric cars generally, they did a study in California, found out over 20% of the people said they will never buy an electric car again, and they're planning on getting rid of theirs. And that's in California, where they have more charging stations. But of course, in California, the insurance rates are higher too. That was probably part of the deal. I'm going to buy the insurance rates. Are ridiculous for these things. Think about everything when you buy a car, not just the original cost or what it costs to fill it up. When insurance is that high, hey, you can walk on that as far as I'm concerned. You know, that's over 10 times what I pay a year for my car insurance. 10! Second Chance says, got an 89 F-150 at hard start when it's hot. It starts fine cold, but when it's hot, it starts real hard. It did overheat it, and we changed the intake. The first thing is, you gotta see, has the engine been damaged? It's an 89. Might have started to blow the head gasket, and when it's hot, it's gonna be expanded, it's gonna leak more. Do my video, how to tell if your head gasket's blown, Scotty. Watch that. If it's blown, you're gonna have to fix the engine. Now, if not, starts good cold but not hot, you could easily have some type of leak in the fuel system. The fuel pressure regulators often go bad on those. And what happens is when an engine is cold, needs extra gas, so if it leaks a little, it'll start better. But when an engine's hot and you try to start it and the fuel pressure regulator is leaking, floods the engine out, makes it hard to start. Here's one thing you can check yourself to diagnose it quickly. When it doesn't start, crank it, crank it, crank it. When you finally get it started, look at the exhaust. And if it's black, it means it's flooded out. Now, if it's totally clear and it's not smoking black, that means it's not getting any fuel. And in that case, you got to check the cold start system. Could be injectors are dirty. Make sure it doesn't have a vacuum leak that's sucking too much air so it doesn't mix with enough fuel to actually start up. But start, like I say, see if that gets, well, if it isn't, see if it's flooding out. Now, if it's flooding out, very common problem with those are leaking fuel pressure regulator. And as old as it is, could be any of the injectors are leaking. If it is hard to start and it then smokes black, next time it's hard to start, don't start it, crank it, and then take out the spark plugs. And if you see that 1 or 2 spark plugs are wet and the others are dry, those spark plugs, the injectors are bad, and those 2 will need replacing. It's another easy way to check it. Well, then it says, got an '01 Ford Mustang with multiple codes. It's got P1401, P1518, P0340, P1285. What do I need to do? Do my video first, fixing a car with multiple troubled codes, Scotty. What you want to do is first, get a scan tool, erase all the codes. Then start it up and drive it. As soon as that check engine light comes on, turn it off, then check the codes. Pray you only have 1 or maybe 2 codes. All those codes together, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. One code can trip a bunch of other codes. The other codes may not be the problem. It could easily be the first code that pops up. So, you get that first code and then try to fix that. first, because that may be going it all the way down the line. You can't analyze 4 things at the same time. There's too many possible interpretations of it. Start with the one by erasing them all, driving it, and the first code that pops up. That's what I do when I work on them with multiple codes. And a lot of times you find out, oh, gee, look, the number 1 fuel injector's bad first. It says that's bad. So I replace that, and then it runs fine in none of the other codes. So start that. Fix the first code that comes out. And pray it doesn't end up all of them pop at once, because if they do, then it's just, a wild, mad scramble of you look at the one that seems to be the most important code, the one that would make it run the worst, easiest, and fix that first. Because once you get a bunch of codes, it gets to be a rat's nest. Shan says, I have a radiator problem with my Chevy Spark 2010. The radiator cuts and doesn't come off when it gets hot. I replace the temperature sensors. A mechanic says he has to replace the whole fuse box. I know he wants to make a buck. Can you help me? Yeah, he probably is telling you the truth that the problem is in the fuse box, because those have crappy fuse boxes. They're notorious for shorting out. You don't necessarily have to replace the whole fuse box. Your fans aren't working right? So what I do is you go to the fuses for the fans, take the fuse box up, look inside. Those wires that feed those fuses for the fan system, cut them loose, then rewire them by splicing into the new part of a wire that's clean, put an inline fuse, and then splice that to the other end of the wire on the other side of where the fuse was. You don't have to replace the entire fuse box because one system isn't working. I've done that so many times. You see one system's broken? Great. You cut those wires and put a standalone inline fuse there. Solder the wires together to where the old ones were, where you cut them, and have that heat shrink wrap. First, before you solder them together, put the wrap on the wire, then twist them and solder them. Then you can put the heat wrap, slide it over, heat it up with a hairdryer or anything, and then it shrinks and it won't corrode anymore. You don't necessarily have to throw the baby away with the bathwater, the entire fuse panel that costs a fortune. You can bypass the problem parts. JP says, I got 87 Jeep. Sat a ranch for years. It's manual transmission, but it fails emissions. I've done the tune-ups, filter, oil filter, spark plugs, cap, rotor, changed the air filter, but it's still far from passing emissions. What can I do? Yet I'm sitting for years. Generally, the fuel injection system, the fuel system, is going to be all messed up. So the first thing I'd do if I were you would be, I would pay a professional mechanic like me to put his pressurized fuel injection cleaning system on the car and clean it that way. It'll run through the injectors, 100% cleaner. It'll help clean the valves, clean the catalytic converter. Then drive it for a few days and see what happens. Now, just because it sat all that time, it could easily, with all that crud, have ruined the catalytic converter. You might need a new catalytic converter. But you clean it, have it pressure cleaned. That's going to give you the best chance of passing. They gum up, sitting years, everything in a fuel system gets gummed up. And running cleaner by a pro is going to help a lot of that out. You said you changed the fuel filter, so, but I mean, the whole system's gunked up inside. Have it cleaned professionally first and pray that fixes. Matthew said, when working on a car, did you ever leave a tool or something somewhere where it's not supposed to be, like in a toolbox? Well, it is every once in a while. Now, my grandfather did more in his older age. He was still a mechanic when he was in his 80s. So, of course, he would sometimes leave things. And here's one of the oddest things on earth. He left a wrench in this guy's car on a distributor. It was a V8 engine in the back, sitting on top of it. And years later, it came back, I was worried, it was still there. It had stayed in place and it didn't fall off. It kind of amazed me, I mean, everybody's going to forget stuff over time. That's one of the reasons the really obsessive compulsive mechanics, they'll do, like instead of having my background here all organized, they have their walls with tools set up on pegs, and they'll have the picture of the tool drawn on the peg. So when they see the picture and no tool on it, they know, I forgot to put it back. And then they find the tool and they put it back in its same place so they know. There's a good organization. Or if you have those nice tool kits where they come in rungs and they snap in each piece, you snap them there. With modern cars, sometimes they'll drive you nuts working on them and you're pulling your hair out and then you leave something somewhere. So it's a good idea to have some backup plan for where tools go. It really is a good idea. You're still going to lose some here or there. That's just the way that it goes. But if you have backup plans, what was where, a good idea is just get your phone. And when you're working on a car, take a picture every once in a while of the tools and where they are. And then you get an idea. Well, did I put all those tools back? And you see the tools you're using. You say, oh, look, that one's still sitting on the engine. You go get it. Cameras come in real handy. And everybody's got them in their phones. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.